Welcome to We Thrive 2025. Y'all. I have Tami Dee Garcia with me today. Let me tell you a little bit about this amazing human being. Ready? Here's the bio. Tami Dee Garcia is a cultural heritage reconnection coach. I'm going to say that again. She's a cultural heritage reconnection coach, speaker, consultant, and Amazon bestselling author of Rediscovering Your Roots, a guide to reconnecting with your cultural heritage and identity. Raised disconnected from her Caribbean and Latino roots and now raising her Ethiopian daughter, Tami brings a deeply personal understanding of reclaiming identity and fostering cultural pride. Through her work, Tami empowers individuals to reconnect with their roots, helps families preserve legacies, and guides organizations in creating inclusive, culturally enriched spaces. She also shares her journey of forgiveness and healing in an international anthology, inspiring others to find purpose through adversity. What a way to complete our summit today by welcoming you, new friend,
Yeah.
Tami, to the stage.
Thank you so much. Every time I hear my introduction, I'm like, wow, who's that? Thank you. Okay, let's get started. Let's see.
We can see it.
You can see it? Okay, let's see. All right, let's go. So let's talk today about how to use your heritage to build stronger communities. Your cultural heritage is yours. No matter how little or how much you know, how large or how small your DNA is, it is your birthright, your story, and no one can take it from you. Now, I want you to think about that for a minute. For me, this statement means my grandmother's stories from the Caribbean, the Motown music I grew up listening to that my mother played, my great grandmother's deep faith from Jamaica, and my great grandfather's career choice from Spain. These pieces shaped who I am today. Heritage isn't just a piece of who you are, it's a gift from your ancestors, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's a gift that strengthens you, connects people, and helps communities grow stronger. So, if anyone ever made you feel like your heritage wasn't enough, they were wrong. You know that saying, what someone thinks about me is none of my business? Well, here's what I want you to take away from this. And if it speaks to you, please write it down or put it in the chat. Your heritage is yours. It is your birthright. And this, my friends, is how we build stronger communities, by showing up fully as ourselves and encouraging others to do the same. When we show up fully as ourselves, we give others permission to embrace their heritage too. And that's how we create shared strength in our communities. By the end of our time together, you'll understand why your heritage matters. You'll recognize the impact of cultural disconnection. You'll learn how to use heritage to strengthen communities, and you'll create your heritage pledge. So thank you so much. Let's see. Can you see me? Yes, okay. So thank you so much for being with me today. I know I'm the last speaker, so I'm going to try to keep this concise and interesting. I grew up disconnected from my cultural heritage. My family is from Dominican Republic and Jamaica, but they were more focused on trying to live the American dream than our cultural traditions. And as someone who is Dominican, Jamaican, African American, I constantly felt like I wasn't enough. Not Latino enough, not Jamaican enough, not Black enough. I just really wasn't enough of anything. I remember trying to speak Spanish and the kids laughed at me. I mean, the irony, how can a Garcia not speak Spanish? Well, guess what? I couldn't speak patois either. And it wasn't until I got to high school that I really learned how to say what's up to my friends. So people often told me that I was trying to be something that I wasn't, that I was being fake. But you know what? I wasn't pretending. I was just trying to be who I was. Now, maybe some of you have felt that way too, and like you had to defend who you are or explain what your culture is. But let me tell you, there is absolutely nothing, nada, to explain. You are fine just the way that you are. Now, for me, everything changed when I went to college. I went to Howard University, my second greatest love next to my daughter. And at Howard, I was surrounded by people who had similar backgrounds and experiences to myself. And what I found was the more I learned, the more I wanted to learn, and the more confident that I became. I promised myself that my children would never be as disconnected from their heritage as I was. And I quickly realized that trying to help my daughter navigate her Ethiopian heritage while still trying to navigate mine, because we know that cultural heritage reconnection is not a one-time event, right? It's something that you're going to do for a lifetime. So now, as a cultural heritage reconnection coach, that's a mouthful. I made it up. I loved it. I guide others on their journeys and I help them reconnect to their cultural heritage. And what I really want from you is for you to live unapologetically as to whatever your heritage is. I want you to love it with pride and just be unapologetic about who you are. So now let's see if I can get back on this screen. I call myself, I want to go back and forth so I can see, but let's see. Let's try sharing again. Okay. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is, if you will, humor me, close your eyes and imagine waking up tomorrow without one of these parts of your body, your eyes, your ears, or your mouth. Pick one. Your eyes, you lose the ability to see your loved ones or the world around you. Your ears, you'd miss the joy of music, the comfort of a loved one's voice, and important safety cues. Your mouth or your voice, how would you share your thoughts, laugh, or ask for help? Now, open your eyes. What would life feel like without one of these? Can you share one word or phrase in the chat? Now, Shannon, I can't see the chat. So if anything interesting comes up, would you?
Yeah, I can even read it to you if you're like, you want me to read you the words that are coming in?
Sure.
I see scary, limiting, abrupt.
Mm-hmm. All of those things. Well, could you survive? Sure, you could survive, right? But how would things change for you? How would it feel to lose something so essential to how you experience the world and connect with others? And just because we can live without something, does it mean that you should? I mean, what's the cost of that? Now, I want you to think about heritage. So similarly to what we just did, think about if you lost a part of your heritage, your language, traditions, stories, right? And some of you, maybe you may already feel disconnected from some of those parts. Think about how losing more of those things would affect you. Language, without it, how would you express yourself or connect with your family? Your traditions, without rituals and celebrations, what happens to that shared joy that you have with your family or even parts of your community? What happens to all of those values and things that have been passed down? If you lose those stories, family stories, you lose wisdom and the resilience that's been passed down for generations. You know, those stories that remind you of who you are and where you come from and what is important. I've seen how reconnecting with heritage can transform not just individuals, but also the people around them. My daughter is from Ethiopia, and she's a good example of this. Now that we live in Ethiopia, there are no Ethiopians around, and many people don't even know where Ethiopia is or what it is or anything about it. And she's really tired. She gets really tired of answering questions about Ethiopia. So this year, she decided to turn her frustration and her challenge into a strength. She's decided to make every school project about Ethiopia. It's her way of learning about herself while sharing her culture with others. And it shows just how proud she is of who she is and where she comes from. This is a reminder that even those little small steps that we take to embrace our heritage can really create powerful connections and inspire people to do the same. Has anyone ever taken a step to reconnect with your tradition, your language, your culture? And if you did, how did that feel? And as I like to say, just because we can live without something, it doesn't mean that we should. I mean, what is the cost of that? Now, let's talk about community. And when I talk about community, I'm not just referring to one specific group. That's a small way of thinking, right? It's community. So it's whether you identify with a particular culture or country, ethnic group, or a mix of them all. Whatever it is, community is about the connections that you create and nurture. It's about belonging to a space where people see you for who you are, honor your heritage, and sharing the journey of building something stronger. Now, this is true for all communities within the diaspora. It's about finding and contributing to the community that makes you feel at home. So, how we did in the beginning with the eyes, the ears, and the mouth, and then how we did with traditions, stories, and language. I want you to think about it in a sense for a community. Imagine an entire community losing its connection to heritage. What happens to them? For their language, when the language disappears, people lose a shared way to communicate and understand each other. For traditions, when traditions fade, the bond between generations weaken, and the joy and connection they bring, those disappear. In stories, when family stories stop being told, we mentioned this earlier, the wisdom and resilience of the community, it fades, and it leaves it disconnected to its identity and the core of what that community is. And then they just become like everyone else, but having nothing to hold on to. Their differences are gone, right? So I'm sure you've seen examples of communities that are struggling because they've lost their traditions, stories, or language. Maybe it's yours, or maybe it's others. And as I always say, just because we can live without something, those people can live, communities can live without those things. But does it mean that we should? And what is the cost of that? So, why should we reconnect? We talked about earlier how your heritage is a gift, right? It's a gift that brings all these wonderful things. Belonging, it helps us to feel connected to ourselves, our families, and communities. That strength, it gives us to face the challenges of today. And connection, it brings people together through shared stories and traditions. So, really, why would we choose otherwise if we don't have to? Why are we willingly letting something go that makes us whole and enriches our lives in countless of ways? These are only 8 or 9 or 10 different ways, right? Losing your connection to your heritage is like losing a part of yourself, but reclaiming it, it makes you whole again. And there we go. Stop the share. Is it back to just me? I'm gonna learn how to get this back and forth. I'm not a pro at it yet.
You're doing great.
Okay. So right now, today, especially, the world feels really heavy, right? Politically, emotionally, financially, it's a lot going on. But I've seen how reconnecting and leaning into your heritage, how it can help people not just survive, it helps people to thrive even in the hardest of times. I led, in another lifetime, many years ago, I led a program for refugees and asylees. And so many of these women, they were from places like Somalia, Ethiopia, Iran, Myanmar, many places across the world. And they came together feeling isolated and confused and scared, right? Most of them didn't know the language. They didn't have a community to turn to. They were all alone. And they felt like they were losing parts of themselves. But then something incredible happened. They started sharing pieces of their culture through food and music and stories. And once we helped them to share pieces of these, things started shifting, right? Started moving. Food became the bridge. Everyone loves food. And one woman, she brought injera and she was teaching people about what it was and how to eat with it. Another, she shared her Syrian lentil soup. And together, we just enjoyed dishes from all over the world. And each meal had, its own separate identity and memories and pride that came with it. Now, as I'm telling this story, I remember so much about it and the food, and we did it monthly. And every month I was so excited because the food and the connections, it was like the best time that we had. We laughed and we talked, and genuine connections started being made. And so these people, they were no longer afraid, right? And they realized that what they were so afraid of in the beginning, it actually became a strength for them. And it helped them being in a new country. So this really shows that heritage is just not something that we hold on to for ourselves. It's communal, right? It's something that we share with others. Now, let's try to share one more time. And I'm gonna stop going back and forth because, okay, we did this. Okay, so how do we begin, right? How do we begin to strengthen our communities? The first thing we do is that we lead with something that feels comfortable. For example, you can share your favorite recipe with a neighbor, right? Um, or music with someone. The second one is we encourage others to share, create a space for people to celebrate their stories. Ask someone about their family traditions. It's really amazing how much people open up when they really see that you take even the smallest bit of interest. And step three is just build inclusive spaces. You can host a potluck where everyone brings a dish that represents their culture. So, what is one small step that you think you're ready to take? Please put that in the chat for me. And we haven't really looked at the chat much. So
Yeah.
Shannon, is there anything that we're missing from the chat?
Would you press the present button one more time so we can see those steps that you had? It
It's
like
not there
no, well, it's like we see it, but it's not wanting to present the slide you were talking about.
right here.
Yeah.
Can you see it now?
I see like the slide before the present slide. So it's like you need to press the present button one more time for Canva.
Oh,
Canva, Canva's being
this
slow.
can't be. Well, I see it, so I'm not sure. So let's see if we can come back out of that and try it one more time.
We also heard it from you. So
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, I can just tell you. But I'd still need to go back because there's one last part that I want to share. But the first step is to lead with what feels comfortable. Never try. A lot of people, I know I tend to be in this camp is when I'm trying to do something. I used to feel like, oh, I always need to do the most complex and the difficult thing. No, it just doesn't make any sense, right? That's counterintuitive. So lead with what feels comfortable to you. And the second step is encourage others to share. And the third is build inclusive spaces. Now we have a comment from Cara. Let's see. Cara, you're Caucasian, you know nothing about your heritage. Oh, hi. And what would you like to know? What would you like to do?
Well, sure. Like, I mean, I think we're English. I don't know. Like, you were talking about this, and I was like, well, maybe I should know some things.
Yeah. How
I
do
am
you
really,
think?
we're just white,
If
well, average.
everybody says that, but nobody's just white or black or just anything. Everybody has something, right? So
I'm kind of,
how do you think that would change your life by knowing more about where you came from?
I guess we can be like a connection with something. Because
Connection,
right now, I'm like, I think it's England. I don't know where my
right?
family came from.
And connection is so important.
Yes,
People want to belong. It's
yes,
something about belonging to a group, and it doesn't mean that you're excluding anyone, right?
right.
It's more about being more inclusive of others and to yourself, right? It's choosing you first because it allowed, then you gain different perspectives and a whole new way of thinking. So learning about that is would be amazing. And Shannon, what did you say?
Oh, I was just parroting back to you, belonging
Oh, okay. I
places,
didn't read it. I
want to
just saw something
belong.
pop
Yeah.
up. I just saw something pop up. Now let's see. I'm gonna share one last time, only because I want you to see these things. I want to share something that I call a heritage pledge. And it's a really small intentional act, and I love it so much. And it comes from my book, where I talk a lot about, reconnecting with your cultural heritage and the steps that you can take, like her, to be able to do something like that and to start off owning it and all just the different ways that you go through that. And one of the last steps of the book is creating this heritage pledge. And this cultural heritage pledge, it's just like a really small way for you to honor and share and help to carry forward your heritage. I find that, when you make these small commitments and you put them in writing, it helps you to stay committed to what you're going to do. It makes you to really think about your intentions. And right now we're just talking it's a really small version of this heritage pledge, which you're doing for yourself and how you're going to honor it. But there are also pledges for not just for yourself and how you're going to show up and honor for yourself. It's if you want to support someone else in their heritage, right? Like I'm supporting my daughter. And so this is my commitment and my promise to her to help her remain connected to her Ethiopian heritage. And it just lists out the different things that you're going to do. There's also a pledge for the community. So when communities come together and how they're committed to what we're going to do. So it is not, a legal document is a commitment to yourself. So let's just see if I can share this fully. Let's see. No. Can you see that? Can you see that or no?
No, it's a black screen.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to, I'm not sure why.
Tech has been teching all day.
Yeah.
There, oh, I see it.
You see it? Okay.
Yes.
So this is a very small piece of example of how you can create your own pledge. And so you say, I commit to honoring my heritage by, what are those things that you're going to do? I will share my culture through those different things that you're going to do. So as you're making this commitment and this promise, you're thinking through all of these things. I will create space for others by doing something. I want to learn and teach more about whatever it is that you know or you don't know. What do you want to do with that? And you will keep the culture alive. And within the book, there, I know, probably a dozen different examples of ways that you can do this, and examples of different pledges to help you understand that. But for this, in this time that we have together, you can take these small pieces and begin to create a small pledge for yourself of how you want to get started and support yourself and your heritage, or maybe somebody else's, or your community. And the last thing that you should do with this pledge is sign it. Put your John Hancock to it. So you have said to yourself, I'm going to do these things, and then put it someplace where you can see it. Don't put it in a drawer. Put it someplace to remind you of those things that you said you're going to do for yourself and your heritage, and maybe even your community, or hopefully your community, because that's what we're talking about today. Now, I have a worksheet with prompts and some of these other things that we've talked about. The pledge, more information on the pledge. And if you would like that, feel free to send me, there you go, connect with me, to send me an email. You can reach me through my website, social media. You can reach out to me all those places. And I'll be happy to send you more information about that. And one thing that I want you to remember from our time today is that your cultural heritage, it really is your superpower. I want you to own it and lead with it and be unapologetic about who you are, no matter how big it is or how small it is. It's your story. And I hope you enjoyed our time today. Thank you so much.
So good.
And if you have any questions now that we're back off, I hope we're off camera now, right? I mean, on back.
Yeah.
Where you can see me,
See
okay.
you. Yeah. You did it. I have.
Happy to answer any questions you might have, or any comments, or share any stories about your experience with heritage or some of these things with community. I would love to hear them, and I'm sure everybody else would.
I, of course, want to hear more about this book. That's a big deal.
It is. But let's see if anybody has any questions first. No? Okay.
Sometimes it takes, we've got the introverts, it takes them a minute. They take in all the information, then they're like,
So my book, Rediscovering Your Roots, let's see if the copy of the cover is on the wall. Can you see it?
Ooh,
Yeah. So
wow.
I spent so much time in designing that cover. I love it. It has meaning in every part of the cover, and the tree, from the tree to the sun to the every piece has meaning to it, because I wanted everyone to be able to see themselves in it. So my book, as I told you, it was inspired by my being disconnected from my cultural heritage and then raising a daughter from a different culture as well. And I found that it was just so challenging, and I didn't know where to turn, where to get the information going left or right. And there weren't really any resources there for me. So I learned through trial and error, through fire. And I started talking to other people, whether they had kids or not. And so many people are just disconnected from their heritage. You can see it when you watch TV shows. There's shows about disconnection, or even if they're not shows about disconnection, even in, I remember the first or second episode of Yellowstone, they were talking about disconnection with the indigenous disconnect. Everywhere they talk about it. So there's just proof that like it is an issue, but nobody is really showing you how to do that. So I thought it would be so great to have this guide to help people, to help them begin navigating the process. So that's what I created. So it starts out, it's like a 4-step approach that I take to it, that's called SEED. And so the first step, we're seeking. And so that's when you're really putting together like your baseline of all the information that you know, right? And so we have to get this baseline to figure out where we're trying to get to. So it helps you gather this information. And then as you start gathering it, what I've also found is that many of us who know nothing about our heritage, or those who might know a little bit about it, like you know where you're from and you might know a couple things, but you don't know anything else. And the people that come have mixed identities, and like myself, feel really bad about that. And we don't feel like we are worthy of it. Like, can we claim this heritage? Is it who we are? Are we allowed to do that? So we go through a process of helping you to get that it is your birthright, right? It is your inherent birthright. You can own it. You can do whatever it is. You don't owe anybody anything. You don't have to prove anything. There's no secret handshake that you have to go through. There's no test that you have to pass. So just helping people just own that, right? And so that's when I say unapologetic. I really want people to lean into this because it's ours. And there are always going to be people who don't agree with it. Let them be who they are. That's who they are. But it's not your truth. It's not your story. And you can't help it. You don't owe anyone anything. What you do owe to yourself is to embrace who you are. So we go through that process and help people to go through, how to become resilient as you're owning these things. And then we start talking about the different types of ways that you can embrace your heritage, right? And we go through just the different phases and the different ways you can embrace it, because there is no correct path to this. And so this guide isn't trying to say step 1, step 2, step 3. That's not it. It's for you to figure out what works for you. If you want to start with chapter 3 and you want to learn more about approach it through art or those ways, you can do that, right? It's your journey. You do with it what you will, but we're here to support you in that. And then once you go through those different pieces, then it's about, okay, how do we express these pieces and of our identity in different ways that we carry it on a day-to-day basis, right? So are you gonna, start wearing pieces of your heritage in your dress? It could be a pin, it could be a scarf, how are you going to daily? Do you listen to music? Do you read a book from those different pieces? So bring it in your daily life, because as I said, this journey, this to your cultural heritage, right? It's not a one-time event, it's a lifetime. And there are going to be times in your life that you embrace it fully and you do all the things. And then, like for me with my daughter, there are times that we don't do anything for anyone. And then we're both like, oh, wait a minute, we should probably celebrate this holiday, or we should learn about this. Or now my daughter, who wants to be multilingual, is going to start up again taking Amharic classes. She did it before, but she doesn't remember anything. But now that she's older, so she speaks Spanish, she's teaching herself Portuguese, and she now wants to do Amharic. So she'll start that in a couple months. And then we go through, that pledge. And then what's the step after that? It's like, how do you create a legacy and a plan for yourself and your family? So we help you create that legacy plan. And what are the things you want your family to know, the future generations? Because most people don't have a legacy plan, a cultural legacy plan. And that's why so many things are getting lost. And so with the book, you can learn how to begin that plan. You can, we give you ways to do it, whether you're a pen and paper type person or more visual, or you want to do it through technology. We give you those pieces and to help you do that. So hopefully this book will give you like a complete way to begin connecting with your heritage, right? And you'll feel very empowered to continue that process with them, in the best way that works for you. So that is the book.
So good.
It's 12 chapters. 12 chapters, a little over 200 pages. I tried to make it work.
Wow.
And there's a workbook that's attached to it. So in the workbook, you'll find more activities, more information. It just will go deeper into it than we do within the book. I mean, I thought 200 pages was enough. People don't want to read anymore.
Good. You have you have 2 comments in the chat.
Okay.
Would you like me to read them to you?
Sure.
Or Susan can come off mute.
I'm a little slow.
Oh, that's right. She can't. I'll read it to you. My great grandmother came from Europe and became a columnist writing for the Yiddish newspaper. She also wrote an autobiography, which was published in a book about Eastern European Jews coming to America. The book was My Future is in America and has many stories. There's Susan. She's got a hat on. Oh, there's the book. She's showing you in a picture.
Oh, wow. I love that. I get so excited when I hear about these things. I love that.
Then she wrote, when her daughter, my grandmother, came with her to America, she wore a long skirt because she thought it made her look older, and she was able to get a job as a seamstress.
Mm.
Amazing.
And that book and those stories, how has that helped you remain connected to your heritage? And how would it be if you didn't have that information, that book?
She's thinking.
Let's see if I can actually talk.
Yeah.
And I read it later. My mother carried on the tradition by earning a scholarship to Pratt Institute, but she was only able to complete the first year because the scholarship only went so far, and it was more important. Sorry about that. We have a guest over, and my daughter is putting the dog in with me. So she it was more important for the son to have an education than the daughters. So they wouldn't allow my mom to continue at Pratt.
And from the book, do you find yourself mimicking any of those things? Does it help you understand yourself more?
I'm not sure. She had a lot of children, my great grandmother. And for a while we were all staying together, but I don't hear from many of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I love that.
That makes me think of books as archival documents, books as, so I'm so grateful that you have written yours, that this book exists, that it is a piece of that history, that cultural heritage that can be passed down.
And it is my hope that many families will see this as a resource for them and to start, like you said, archiving in their heritage and sharing it and making a part of their daily life for their children. I don't remember the statistic right now, but I want to say that we, by the year, say within 20 years, we're going to lose 40% of the world languages. The world languages are becoming extinct. It's just continuing more and more rapidly because of things like this, because people are leaving the native lands and they're doing the acculturation, assimilation rather, and just leaving their traditions, their languages, and everything behind. And so it is a national crisis. So when we know that when we lose these languages, we lose everything attached with them. So the world is losing knowledge, wisdom, history. There are in museums, there are languages and things that are written that people can't translate because they lost that knowledge. And so that's happening. For example, in South Africa, there's a woman that is, I can't remember which tribe, but she's the last remaining person that speaks the language. So her granddaughter is trying to get as much information as she can, and she's writing everything down. And it's now in South Africa, they see it, they know that this is bad. And she's 90 something years old. So they have this whole project around her trying to retain this language, but it's not the only one. Yeah. So, well, that's all I have, folks.
I mean, you have brought us such deep thinking, and I'm so glad that we have your information. Um, I'm so excited about your book and your work, and how, like, especially we have so many mothers here representing today, bringing this, like, really being intentional about what they're doing for themselves and their families. As a mother myself, I'm very encouraged by that. I'm really grateful that you were here. Thank you for all that you're doing and for being the last speaker on the We Thrive 2025 Summit. Thank
I
you.
came here to dance it out with you too.
And guess what? I can't make the playlist work. And so, I know. We will have to, how about this? I will send you the link that my DJ Mandy put together for us. I will send it to you, and we will make a promise that we will tonight. I know Charlie thinks this is very funny. Oh, tech. We will have a dance party.
Okay.
And we will hope to see you very soon for this dance party. Will we have, like, can we, like, redo this and have a dance party later in the
Absolutely.
year?
Dance
Kara's about
party
it.
yeah, dance party
Yes,
is
dance party.
awesome.
And with food, because you're also like, I wish we could do like smell-o-vision.
Yeah, smell-o-vision. I'm sure somebody is coming up with that.
Please, we need this during the next 100 days. And Kara has a beautiful resource in her Etsy shop. During the next 100 days, we hope to be back together. So I haven't talked to all the speakers, but I will find times to bring us back together and to share and to continue this lovely time that we're having. I'm so grateful, y'all. Let's give it up for all of the amazing speakers today. We are blessed. The blessings will continue. This work is amazing. So grateful. Susan, Angela, Charlie, Marie, Kara, Tami, and those that are watching online into the future. Thank you so much. Be well. And let's get back to it after we rest. Bye, y'all.
Bye. Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Tami, thank you so much. Bye, everybody.